Sweating in a Bear Suit is a swear-friendly podcast. We don't do it heaps, and we're talking about the F and S variety of swears, but we trust you to take care of yourself and sit this one out if that's not for you. Now, on to getting sweaty. Sweating in a bear suit. Sweating in a bear suit. I am sweating in a bear suit. Sweating in a bear suit and having lots of fun with my sweat.
Hello, and welcome to Sweating in a Bear Suit, the podcast where Steph comes up with a new strapline every time and makes some kind of visual, amusing face, body language, something. Today, I feel like he's mocking me.
I'm not mocking. What I was trying to do was confuse the people who are watching, and I'm sorry for people who are listening, because what I was doing was attempting to be the puppet for G's voice so that when people watch the video, they don't know who's talking. Because my performance skills are so good that ventriloquism was perfect. Everyone listening, perfect.
And my voice is masculine?
Your voice is perfect. I would love to have your voice if I could. So my job now is to give you a strapline, correct?
Yes,
that's how we start this.
Yep.
I've gone down a different path. Because I was reflecting on my straplines that I've been giving you, and they've all been a bit silly. And I was like, I think what we need is just a strapline that is just straight to the point and not with no fluff or anything. Yeah? So here's the strapline.
I thought work was the no fluff one. Or because of the performance element.
It wasn't work. It was work, which is very different.
Yeah.
This one is more to the point. Get ready. So you'll say this thing. You'll go, "Hi everyone, welcome to Sweating in a Bear Suit," and then here's the strapline: a podcast about leadership and work.
Oh, is that what we do? Okay.
What do you think of that? Actually, before you tell me what you think of it, it also involves that gap of boredom afterwards, because that's how boring I was going for with the strapline.
Okay.
It's the strapline and then 30 seconds of silence afterwards.
Well, you definitely achieved that. You're on the boring end of straplines, particularly compared to the theatrical element of last time and the one where you talk about piggeries. Also, what was the one about pigs?
No. There was the one with the line "Squeal, piggy, squeal."
Oh, right. I forgot. Yeah, okay. No, okay. Yeah. Look, I think we've gone too far the other way.
Okay.
And
okay.
Is that what we do? We will work it out as we go along. Talk about leadership and management. I suppose we do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we do more than that. And G, what I've heard from you is this was not the right strapline. I'll come back to you with a better strapline. Have you got any inspiration you want to give me before the next one, or do you just want me to go with something?
Look, you've been doing very well without me.
Okay.
I'll just continue to critique and
to criticize everything I do.
Armchair critic. That's what.
Yeah.
Great.
Very happy with that position.
Excellent. Cool. Well, today we are continuing our brown paper chats. And the next chapter of the brown paper, which if this is the first time you've heard the two of us talk about things, we wrote a thing called a brown paper. It's like a white paper, only better. And the idea of Sweating in a Bear Suit first few episodes has been about just discussing the content in there. The last bit about the brown paper that we're going to talk about is the Playstate peach. Now, last time we talked about what will help. That was system psychodynamics and play we think might help. This time we're going to talk to you about the framework we have developed that makes those big academic strange concepts useful to people. So, Steph, what's the Playstate, Peach?
It is a conceptual framework for busy, stylish, fashionable leaders to be able to think about work in a different way while they're actually doing the job of leading. And I just want to point back to when we're talking about what will help and when we're talking about the Playstate, Peach, we're talking about addressing the fundamental question that something is not working with work at the moment. And engagement levels are dropping. People are talking about having a terrible time. People are having a hard time making organizations where creativity can thrive and innovation and communication. People are feeling like they don't belong in the workplace. And that's what we are dealing with. That's the problem that we are talking about. And we made a framework to help leaders think about thinking about work in a different way so you can create conditions where work happens real good. That is my preamble to my rant. And now I begin rant. What the Playstate, Peach is are thinking about how leaders in an organization go about creating the conditions where the group can play and get work done. And for our viewers at home, G has just brought up the waving peach, which is our framework. The reason why we have formatted it this way, held the framework in this way, is because we believe, and G, this is big for us, we get a bit fired up and ranty about this. We are not talking about setting up a play state in your organization just to have fun. What we are talking about is setting up play so that groups are really healthy and get their task done really well, because the shorthand of saying why you as a leader would want a play state in your organization is, sometimes it might be you. You might have made this situation, or you might have seen another leader or manager make a group where things just work really well. And you say to them, what do you do? How did you do this? And they go, I don't know. The group just kind of works well and they just kind of do all their things. And I'm not actually spending that much time figuring it out because the group kind of figures it out together. That's what a play state does. And this wonderful waving framework will help you be able to create those conditions where a play state can emerge in your group so that people have heaps of fun at work and enjoy what they're doing. And the products you produce are super awesome, fun time, great. And you aren't getting burnt out having to deal with a lot of people drama, work issues while you're doing your thing. That is my general explanation, G. How did I go?
Great. We're trying to help people to not have to work as hard, not have to feel like they're working hard and getting nothing done. Getting stuff done is really rewarding. And if you're enjoying that experience, then the play state is in existence. Getting stuff done, learning, great. So we don't mean, we've said this before, we don't mean like play games if that's not fun to you and the people around you. We mean if the people in that group are enjoying their experience of learning and working, then you have a play state.
And might I add to that, G? The research in Gallup does a lot of research about the global state of the workforce, and engagement levels dropping is costing, and I'm going to say these figures and I'm probably going to get them wrong. So I'm talking around, I think the figure was disengagement in teams is resulting in loss of productivity, and that is costing, I think it's 11% of GDP a year, which is a whole bunch of money. It's a lot of money. It's a big number.
Yeah, there was a report this week from Atlassian too, which I'm just going to quickly pull up so I get the right amount. According to Fortune 500, 25 billion, that's billion with a B, work hours are lost to ineffective collaboration each year. Like that
sucks.
That is far too much, because that's not people aren't working. That's people at work not working with others well enough, meaning that they're there pushing shit up a hill, having a really terrible time, and the company isn't even benefiting from it. No one's having a good time there. Nobody. Work is broken.
And this is a really hard problem to solve, because figuring out how collaboration works and figuring out how creativity and innovation works, they're really hard things, because they are not like we are using the wrong digital tool. They're things to do with human beings and people, and that is a complex thing to solve. And we have not trained leaders and the business community to think about work in a way that takes, this is my belief, by the way, in a way that takes into account the humanness of the individuals involved in collaborating together. And when you do, you make really great stuff, and it's really awesome. And what we wanted to do with this Playstate Peach is give you a really easy form to hold in your mind, so that when you're actually in the act of doing leading, you can recall something that helps you to diagnose what might be going on in the system and to work to improve the conditions so that the group can kind of fix itself via the mechanism of play. Because another thing that my dear friend G tells me, as a fashionable, stylish, wise, witty leader, is that when you are a leader and people give you a whole bunch of micro skills to do, you can get anxiety just trying to remember the micro skills. And then you're like, but I've got to remember to do empathy now, but not too much. And then also, am I checking in every bloopy blap? And then it doesn't help. Whereas what we're trying to do is give you something really broad that you can hold in your head, which we will explain in a moment, but we're really selling why it's great right now. We're going on about it.
Well, we're speaking a bit more to the system itself. It's about the system is broken. There are a lot of people out there talking about building skills in leaders that help them to think about people as humans. There's a movement in HR that's been going for a long time where we're thinking about supporting individuals, and we've gone really heavy on the well-being side, particularly through the pandemic. But the problem with that is it separates work getting done from positive things like that fill your cup.
Yeah,
and
like achievement of task.
Yeah, exactly. And while it is really important to look after yourself and have support around you, we might need less of that in the workplace if the work system was better.
Yes.
And so we might not have to remember all those bloody micro skills if the system was, if we were all thinking about the system better.
And you can tell when G and I get on a tear with each other, because I get excited and I start jumping up and down in my chair and yes-anding all the time. The technical academic nerd alert word for this is bringing your attention from the individual to the group level. So the current focus on well-being is really awesome, and supporting individuals is a really awesome thing. And a leader has to bring their attention to the group level as well and think about as if the group was a person that you were supporting. So as well as the individuals in the group, also taking your attention to the group level and what's happening in a group level. And I would argue there isn't as much of that right now in the world.
I feel like sometimes is like my leadership in people experiences sometimes that people would come to me and say, we need to do team bonding activities. And they have their place and their time, but they're often, again, taking away from what everyone's there to do, which just the work creates longer to-do lists, doesn't actually help the doesn't help people collaborate any better, really. Because since we've lost the 25 billion hours of bad collaboration time, I would argue that the world has done far more team building exercises.
Oh, this is such a good segue into talking about the peach.
Great. We do need to talk about
do you have more thought in there, or can I jump?
No, that was my
that
mic drop moment. That was my mic drop moment.
And that is, I think this is perfect to talk about the peach. That, for the listeners at home, we're going to have to try to explain the peach. But for those of you viewing, you can see the peach now. This is a perfect way into it, because I think when people say team building activities, they go, great, we're going to do some team building activities. And I will usually go, for what? What is the task? And people are a bit more fuzzy on that. Oh, we just want to feel good with each other. But if you look at our tasty peach framework, for those of you listening at home, I want you to imagine a peach cut down the middle. Yeah? What's in the middle of the peach? The seed, the stone, the pit, the thing. You know, the hard bit that you hurt your teeth on if you chew. That bit.
The thing that brings life elsewhere once the peach is eaten.
Oh, the metaphor just keeps growing and growing, doesn't it? But yes, the seed that is the success of the peach tree if it goes off and makes another tree. So that's at the center of our framework. And what the word we have on that is mission or primary task. So the thing that makes a group is a shared task or mission. If you don't have if a group of humans are just hanging around and they don't have a shared task, they are not a group. For example, if you go to the pub and people are all just sitting around in different groups chatting to each other, the pub is not a group if they're not doing something together, like, say, a trivia night. Then they become a group. So it unifies humans. And that is at the center of our peach framework, because when you are doing something, you need to be really clear on what the task is. G, what else do we say about task layer of our peach?
We usually quote what a group is.
Which we just did.
Which we just did. Sorry, I tuned out, Steph. Was that really obvious?
Mate, G, because I talk a lot, I think I'm used to it now. I just assume.
I feel like I was a kid in class that got in trouble for daydreaming.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about
that. So yes, I do know the peach, so I will continue talking. The reason we're at work is to do a job. And there's some stat that came out again in that Atlassian report that I mentioned, that 24% of executives, 24, that's like less than a quarter, say that teams are working on mission critical work. So what on earth are the other 76% of people doing? They're just working their butts off for nothing.
Off task.
Yeah. They are not helping the company achieve what the company needs to achieve.
Now, G, sorry, just to dip into our history, I know that when you were my boss, there were times that I went off task. And there were times that I forgot to do the thing. And you know what it usually was? I was having so much fun on the thing, and it wasn't anyone's fault. Someone else in the system said, hey, can you do that? And I was like, oh, that looks like fun. Yeah, I'll spend 2 weeks working on this thing. And then I would tell you about it, and I would look in your face, and then I knew in my heart. I was like, oh, this isn't what my job is it?
No, but what was fascinating was my experience of that is when other teams would pull you into stuff that wasn't why it was not really, I wasn't a fan of that, is because I could see that those other teams weren't being productive in the thing that was really mission critical to the company, instead being distracted with the fun thing that wasn't going to help us. And that goes to my point. Why do we always think of things off task as being the fun stuff? And then it just creates your to-do list that's even longer.
So this is the point of this first layer of the framework, is the task has to be really clear. It's got to be understood by everyone. Now, we talk about company mission. So the whole of the company having that mission really clear, and people should be able to know it. And also you could have smaller tasks, like if you're having a meeting, what the actual task of that meeting is, being really clear and agreed on what the task is. Now, here's a weird thing. Being really clear on your task and your mission actually, and this is a hypothesis that Stefan has, makes it easier to work in diverse groups. Because the one area we don't have diversity on is agreement about what the reason is that we're all there together. The reason you exist has to be agreed on by everyone. People can disagree on how to achieve the mission, but what the mission actually is has to be understood and agreed to by everyone in the group. And that means you can work with a really diverse group of people because you have that task to unify everyone together in some kind of shared mission in what you're doing. So very, very important, really important that it's clear. And the final thing is that just because you say a mission is a mission doesn't mean that people within your system have integrated that mission and are actually doing it. It's to some degree, the experience of the task is tacit. This is why you have to go to people and ask them, what do you think the mission of this organization is? What is your job and how does it relate to what we do here? Because you may get different answers. And if you get different answers, it's your job to unify them.
Which takes us to, I'm going to jump to the boundary layer now because I feel like it's important. It's a different way to do it. But when you've got the whole peach in front of you, the two things you as a leader it's your job to do, boundaries and task. And a lot about boundaries is defining things, communicating things regularly, because the boundaries keep the safety in the Playstate, make those things happen. So if we go to the boundary layer, how do you describe a boundary, Steph?
Well, on our peach framework, the boundary layer is the skin of the peach. So if the seed is the mission, the very outer layer of the peach is the skin. What does the skin of a peach do? It holds the inside in, it keeps the outside out, and it lets some things pass through that skin. Things that it needs and things that it needs to have out of the system. For an organization, because an organization is a concept, the boundaries are abstract, but they are all the things that contain the organization and let things go out that are good and let things come in that are good. That's the general explanation. Yeah.
So it's a word that system psychodynamics uses, and the reason why we use it is because it covers a whole bunch of stuff. To make it really quick and simple, boundaries tell the organization who they are and how they work. So that's a lot of the stuff that management does. What is people's role? How does management work? How do feedback and things like that work? How do you put your leave in for a very kind of people-y one? But also, which tools do you use? How do you physically interact with people in your team and with others? That is leadership's job to define, but also empower others to define themselves. The boundary layer on the peach that you can see has other things too. One is organization in the mind. Now, we have chosen to use the system psychodynamic words there because we think that's actually clearer than what sometimes business talks about. And businesses talk a lot about culture. I have had a job title in the past where culture was part of my job title. A lot of people argue culture is in everybody, built by everybody. And the reason that we use organization in the mind is because if you listen to those words, it's what the company is in people's heads. It used to be a building where people went every day and sat down and sent faxes to each other. Now, it is far more abstract than that. The market in which people work in is far more abstract than that. And so as a leader, part of your job is to help people conceptualize what is the company. We do that through things like values and how else do we do that?
Strategy.
Culture, ritual,
yep.
Things that help the
all
company.
Hands meetings.
Yeah.
Company offsites. We buy a birthday cake for people on their birthday. We go for drinks once a quarter. Like, it is all the things that give people a sense of the organization. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one we've got is containment and holding. These are, again, very system psychodynamic words. Steph, what are the system psychodynamics explanation for that?
Great. So, any group of people working together will have feelings about the thing that they are doing. That is just a fact. One of the reasons why we think the Industrial Revolution model of work is bad is because it did not take this into consideration when it considered people in work. Human beings have feelings about doing tasks. Those feelings are myriad. They can be happiness, sadness, frustration, joy, excitement, elation. When people have feelings in a group of people, you need some kind of function to contain the feelings. Now, I don't mean contain as in to squash them down. I mean literally contain as to hold them. Because if you don't hold them, they spread out and do a whole bunch of different things. So what leadership does, one of their functions is to contain the feelings that come up when the task is being done. And that can be as simple as someone saying, I have to give a talk and I'm a bit scared. And leadership goes, tell me more about that. And then the feeling can exist and the person can work through it, but it requires someone to contain that feeling. Now, the problem with that is if it is not done well, leaders burn the fuck out, because when you are continually taking responsibility for the feelings in a system and they're not being held well, and that's not being recognized as work that you do, that takes a toll on you, and then eventually you leave.
And not being able to do anything about it. And I think the answer used to be, or still is in a lot of places, well-being. That's my answer to it. People feel bad, and so I will coddle them, or I will give them leave, which is sometimes a very appropriate thing to do.
Or a ping pong table.
Or a ping pong table. We'll make people happy by giving them fun to do. But as we have said many times, that doesn't actually help the company or the organization where all these things are coming up. So if we can improve the whole system, use those feelings as data for action.
Oh, gee, it's like you deserve your own master's in system psychodynamics, because you hit on exactly the thing, which is that actually it's not just about containing and holding the feelings so you can get back to the job. It is containing and holding the feelings because the feelings are awesome data that can tell you how to make the system, the organization you work in, healthier and more able to achieve the task. And I'm going to add another one, which isn't from any academia, it's just from what Stefan thinks. If you are selling a product and inside your organization, people feel like they can be human beings and it feels good, not fun all the time, but it feels good to be a human in that system, you will attract more customers to you. Now, I can't tell you that is based on any kind of research. It is just a deep instinctual feelings I have in my waters.
Agreed. I'm choosing not to go down that rabbit hole. We will have another topic another day about the impact of the movement for positive culture to be a branding exercise. That was a whole thing, and it turned into companies not being honest about how they actually felt, and I think it created a bigger divide between we're supposed to be all shining and outside. Then
I think this is important enough to caveat it with, I'm talking about when it's true.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about when the experience of being at work actually is good, not when it is presented as being good. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we have been banging on about task and boundaries, but there's two things that we have skipped over in the peach for the people that can see the picture, and that is the flesh and the seed covering, which we've named the safety and the Playstate. So boundaries, you can't create safety in that safety is a feeling, but you also can't bake a cake if your hair's on fire. So you need to be safe enough to do the task at hand. Boundaries help you create a safe enough environment. When you have a safe enough environment, the world has been banging on about psychological safety since the 90s when Amy Edmondson started talking about it. And it is absolutely vital to create an environment where people feel safe enough at work to take risks, ask questions, build relationships with other people in the organization to help them work better together. If you get that awesome safety and you put into your boundaries and task, and then you as a leader authorize play, that's when you get the play state, which is our argument. When people are enjoying the task of learning and doing their work, that's when you get awesome stuff like collaboration, productivity, innovation, and people giving feedback, receiving feedback more effectively, having difficult conversations with each other about how they feel. That's when you get the real magic.
And the thing that I just want to add to that, and you've said it, but I think it's worth really underlining, is the way we talk about it is you can't do safety. So a thing that we have noticed is that people will go, okay, we want this to be a psychologically safe space. So this is a psychologically safe space. And that's how they do it, is just by saying this is a thing. But the thing about safety is it is a feeling, and you can't force a feeling. The reason why it's important to talk about is whether people feel safe enough or not to do their job is really good data on whether your boundary layer is working. Because the thing that makes safety is boundaries. That's where your attention goes. How are we holding the whole organization together? And the boundaries are the province of leadership to manage and everyone to be involved in. And so once you get that layer right, then safety, authentic, real safety that isn't just a word that you say at the start of a meeting, but actually is real, that's when it can emerge. And then only from that state can play come up. Because in order for play to exist, you need to feel safe and the relationships need to be strong.
And that is also to say that you also can't just inject play in a way. And what do I mean by that? You can't just say, all right, play now, have fun, do the thing. Because cringe moments at work are like, oh, I've got to do this compulsory fun activity and my boss thinks it's great. And then my boss, is, with good intentions, wants us to share our most fun day in a really structured way when no one has the time for it. It doesn't actually help them work together. Those kind of things don't work unless it's authentic to the group. We use the examples from our previous job where, and it took us a while to kind of get to this point, we would give examples of how play showed up when it was authorized at our last company. And one of those examples is when a new person would start on a Zoom, we would make a big deal about this big surprise that we had for them, and 100 people would spin in their chair as Steph is currently demonstrating. If I said to you, that is the answer, everybody, you're in a remote organization, you must spin your chair when someone new happens, that is not fun for other people. But the way that this came from leadership demonstrating and authorizing that fun and play were a thing that were important.
And actually, can I tell you the breakdown of how it emerged?
Yes.
It was leadership authorizing it. And here's how it worked. The person who was leading the session was welcoming a new person to the company. And then someone in the crowd, not a leader, went, oh, we should do a thing when a new person comes. And then that leader went, I have no idea what to do. What should we do? And then someone just yelled out, spin in our chairs. And then we all went, okay. And then so it was fully authorized by leadership that people within the group could take up the playful thing. And then we developed a thing together. But that's why another group can't do it, because it's the developing that makes it authentic to the group.
Exactly. So that's why we have we really should color code it differently, but we wanted it to make it look like a peach. The mission and the boundaries are the things that you actually do as a leader. They're the things that you can control. You build processes, you write documentation, you engage in action. Safety and play are the things that you authorize and encourage. And that can only happen with effective boundaries and focus on the task.
Sick.
Great. So
we've gone totally over time.
We have gone totally over time. But it feels like we've come to a natural end. What do you think, Steph?
Oh, I agree.
We can bang on about this for longer, but
no. In the theatre, we would call this the denouement. The climax has happened, and now we're rolling towards the end.
Awesome.
And at the end, what do we do, G? What's at the end of the thing?
Well, we have a saying. Before that, though, we need to talk about.
Oh, okay.
This was Brown Chats. This is the end of the brown paper. The only thing left in the brown paper is a bit of a pitch for our business. But the thing about that is, if you're interested in that, just go to our website. We're not going to have a podcast episode pitching. So we will come to you next time with more content about something different. Could be emotions in the workplace. Could be anything. We'll see. We'll see what we feel like. So join us next time for not brown paper chats, sweating in a bear suit, chat time. Until then, let's go make some flying cars.
Yay! Playgrounded. That's better.